take you back in time to the year 2014. Back then I was pretty big into Vocaloid, a series of characters who sang through a vocal synthesis program called Vocaloid, and the Project Diva games, a series of games based off of a line of Vocaloids produced by Krypton Future Media. At the time, the latest release was Project Diva F2nd, which was an amazing rhythm game for the PlayStation Vita and the PS3. Now imagine my surprise when I stumbled upon a game called Megpoid the Music online around this time. Megpoid the Music is a rhythm game that is heavily similar to Project Diva. It features a popular Vocaloid much like Diva. Instead of Miku, however, this time we're left with Gumi Megpoid, a Vocaloid by Internet Co. Limited, and a serious competitor to Miku. At the time, Gumi was always just out of reach for me. Due to the fact that she was produced by a different company, she was never allowed to join the main cast of Project Diva. This put her in an awkward gray area. I was never able to experience any of Gumi's songs in a rhythm game, but suddenly, there was a game that allowed me to do that. When I first played this game, I despised it. It was so full of things that I didn't like, and it honestly didn't keep me interested for very long. However, now that I'm older, and I've had more experience with other rhythm games, I think I can finally appreciate it for what it was trying to do. Something that's always confused me is the circumstance behind this game's release. This game was released in 2013 by Paraphrase for the PSP. Who is Paraphrase? I can barely find any information on them online that isn't connected to this game. Also, why the PSP? The Vita was already out, and Project Diva F was already on it. This seemingly killed the games in terms of sales. However, low sales numbers and a low demand overall means that this game is still really cheap on Amazon, only going for around $16, $25 for the special edition. I decided to pick up the special edition due to the fairly cheap price gap between it and the original version, and I honestly wasn't disappointed. The packaging is bright orange, and it makes it stand out nice on my shelves. And the figures it came with are really nice too. It also came with a decal for my PSP. The figures alone make the special edition worth the extra cash. Going into the game, the opening is catchy as all hell. It always pumps me up to enjoy the game. But despite the amazing intro, the song, titled Maybe Maybe, isn't actually playable in-game for some reason. At least the title screen has some visual flair. The two Gumis in the background will dance if you let them sit there for long enough, and will actually do dances seen in-game if you let the opening cycle for a few times. It's a small detail, but I love it. Heading into the menus, since I can't read Japanese, I don't really care about anything other than the song list, the shop, and the save menu options. The save menu option is very important, as this game does not autosave. Somehow, a game got released in 2013 on the PSP with no autosave. Make sure that you save frequently, unless you want to lose everything. The shop is also fairly straightforward. There's rhythm game items, room items to gift to Gumi, and costumes. Again, I don't actually know any Japanese, so the costumes are all that I really care about. This game's costume lineup is fairly decent, although it's not actually based on any of the songs. They look nice and they do their part. The last menu option that actually matters is the song list. This game's song list is extremely strong, with some amazing songs in it. My favorites include The Trumpet Playing Boy, Ten Face, Killer Lady, and Carnival. there isn't really one song in this game that I don't like. Unfortunately, the game's song list is also incredibly small, at only 30 songs. In addition to the small song list, this game also cuts down the songs to only be about a minute and a half each. This whole game can be beaten in just under 40 minutes. This downside isn't as large as I used to think it was though. As I played the game and slowly mastered it over time, I began to realize the purpose behind the shortened songs. The beat maps all felt unique and distinct from one another, with very interesting and varied play styles throughout the list, allowing each song to feel unique. Trumpet Playing Boy has you mashing one button with bursts of other buttons occasionally thrown in. The last song, Zesho no Cavalli, has the insane bursts of randomized notes that are designed to trip up unexpecting players. Versus has some of the most intense double notes I've ever seen thrown throughout it. Even Electric Star, a basic J-pop song, has an interesting beat map, with complex strings of changing face buttons. Shortening the songs also kept the game feeling fresh. I've never felt sick of any of the songs while playing, even when attempting to perfect them. The gameplay boils down to Project Diva plus Beatmania plus a small twist. The twist being that the arrows are their own separate buttons in the rhythm game. I've seen complaints about this online, but I absolutely do not understand the complaints. I love this shit. This game is handcrafted to be challenging specifically to the fans of Project Diva. Paraphrase knew their audience would essentially be entirely made up of Diva players, who are used to using both sides of the controller in roughly the same way. This game took that luxury away and added in the arrow notes to complicate the inputs, and handed the game back to the players and said good luck. Once you get over the hurdle of training yourself to handle the arrows, they feel natural and only add to the experience overall. Unfortunately, this leads to reduced readability in some cases. They tried to color code it by making arrows white and face buttons black, but sometimes it's just not enough. Songs like Killer Lady and Holography are just absolute nightmares. Even when you can clear nearly everything else in the game, the way the notes display themselves is also flawed, as on earlier models of the PSP, the screen can occasionally have really bad ghosting, making the game extremely hard to focus on. Eventually, you can train yourself to see the notes properly, but on earlier PSPs it is significantly harder to do so. The load times in this game are atrocious. From a song-to-song perspective, they're alright, but that is not the only time this game will stop to load. On the song select screen, the songs all have their own images and play audio samples automatically. On an emulator, this works perfectly. On the PSP, it has to stop and load for every song you scroll to in the song list. Due to this, the menu feels extremely tiring to get through. You might ask me, well then why don't you just play it on an emulator then? I'll tell you why. It's because every time, and I do mean every time you start a song, the game makes a god-awful screeching sound. On the PSP, Gumi asks, but on emulators, she calls forth the screeches of the damned to show her displeasure over you pirating the game. I've even had her make a long beeping sound that felt as though it was going to make my ears bleed. I didn't manage to record it though, not that I would put any of you through that. This problem seems to happen even slightly when playing on an ISO dumped onto a PSP with custom firmware, although it isn't as bad. There is an install feature, but I don't actually have enough room on my PSP to do it, so maybe that fixes the load times, but for the love of Christ, do not emulate this game. Another fairly lame aspect of the game is the music videos. In Project Diva, the videos are typically well put together, and tell a story, or at least attempt to convey the meaning of the song. Megpoid just doesn't try. Songs recycle stages constantly, and the videos are nothing more than Gumi dancing on a stage. They do their job, but with so much better out there, it's a letdown to say the least. At least the graphics are good outside of that, for a PSP game anyways. It's colorful, and nothing looks particularly bad. The art style is pleasing to the eyes, and Gumi's design is one I've always been a fan of. Yet another thing that drags this game's quality down is its scoring system. In Project Diva, if you fail the song, you get a dropout, or a mistake, depending on the game and its localization. And if you don't hit enough notes correctly, you get a cheap or a lousy. Hitting just enough notes gets you a standard, and it goes on up from there. In this game, the sole deciding factor on whether or not you clear a song is your health bar. And I don't mean if you run out of health, you lose. If a song ends and you have 80% or less of your HP, you fail. Not a cheap, nothing like that. It's the exact same rank as if you were to naturally run out of HP. This leads to some infuriating beat maps, like Cutoff Line, where the ending of the song is an insane mash fest, or Holography, where the entire ending of the song is a confusing mess. I can't tell you how many times I went from an amazing run of songs to completely failing them in 10 notes. Negativity aside, this game also has a very interesting extra feature. This game also has a multiplayer mode. I've only played a few rounds of it, but from what I played it works fairly well. It's a simple score attack fight with friends. Even without reading Japanese, it's fairly easy to stumble through the menus and get it working, and from there it should work smoothly. I experienced next to no connection issues or extra lag, minus small bits of lag at the beginning of some songs. Overall, I love this game. It's so full of strange, amateurish mistakes, like its lack of an autosave system or stuttery menus, and also shows clear signs of budget restrictions, like the small song list and the repeating stages, yet it still manages to be a fantastic rhythm game that I constantly find myself coming back to. It is absolutely fascinating to me, because to me it represents pure and absolute amateurism, due to the very nature of its own existence. I would absolutely recommend this game to anyone who loves rhythm games and is looking for something new to try.